they told me to kill myself.
Well, what
And
was
I
is
don't
there
remember. It was
any
a long time ago.
is there any context to this? Is there like
Yeah, yeah. The
yeah?
context is that I jumped into the server. I said I wanted to debate about October 7, and I think
October
that it's
7th.
not a terrorist attack. It's actually, yeah. I wanted to talk about October 7.
Mm-hmm.
I said that it's not a terrorist attack. It is to be expected. Said something like that.
But just because
And the
something
moment I said that, they just
right, yeah,
went
I
off.
understand. But do you think that just because something is to be
Hmm.
expected, it means that it's not a terrorist attack? Terrorist attacks can be expected. They can be
No,
unexpected
it's not a
reaction to
terrorist
something.
attack. No, I mean it's not a.
Well, yeah, but saying that it's
No, I
unexpected
mean
thing
that
does
it's
not
not a
mean
terrorist attack,
it
and
does.
also
Yeah,
it's to be expected and kind of
but
justified too.
those things are separate things. Something can be expected and still be a terrorist attack. Do you not agree?
Yeah, true. That's true. Just because it's to be expected
So
doesn't
just yeah.
necessarily mean it's a
So
terrorist attack.
just because you say it was
It's not a
expected,
terrorist attack.
it
Um,
does not
but there
establish that
are
it's
other
not.
reasons as to why it's not a terrorist attack.
Oh, can you name a few? I'm not really here to debate that,
You
but
cut a lot. What did you say?
sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. You're cutting a lot.
Guarding.
You're cutting a lot. Can you repeat?
Oh, I said, can you name a few? Yeah, hold on. Are you still here? I don't know why I'm having these technical issues right now. Hello? Are you still? Oh my god. The
Yeah.
internet. The internet is worse than, honestly, worse than when I was in Ukraine, and that's saying something. Okay? The internet is working for me
Hmm.
worse. Just in case I'm actually recording this conversation on the PC. I'm actually doing this the smart way and I'm actually recording this.
So there's a Russian guy in chat saying maybe after visiting Ukraine he'll stop to talk like he knows something because it's clearly that he doesn't. So
He's talking not about you, he's talking about Destiny. He said, I'm
oh, he's
watching
talking about
Destiny
Destiny.
and I can tell that the guy is completely clueless on the subject matter. Maybe after visiting Ukraine, he'll stop talking like he knows something because it's clearly clear that he doesn't. He wasn't talking about you. The chatter was talking about Destiny.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Destiny sucks.
Right.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
getting to the actual debate that. Uh, um, so we were like, we were chatting, and I'm of the opinion that Ukraine is a slave state.
A slave state.
Yes,
Can you define a slave state for me?
and a state that practices slavery, and Ukraine has slaves in
Can
their
you
army.
can you name me a country, a nation state that is not a slave state?
India, there you go.
Does India not do draft?
No.
No, there is no draft in India.
Well, in China as well. They don't have a draft as well.
There is draft in China.
Is there? Are you talking about registration or like actual? Like you have to actually go there.
Hold on.
Okay, then what about Japan? There's no draft
Uh,
there, so
I'm pretty
it's
sure
not a
that
slave state
Japan
either.
definitely has mandatory military service in the Japanese Defense Force. I don't know why my computer is working so slowly right now. I apologize. I just have no clue what is happening. I'm, I'm suffering from very big technical issues. Does China have military draft? The Chinese system operates through a process of draft
Yeah,
registration.
China doesn't, I think.
The jure military service with the PLA is obligatory for all Chinese citizens. Obligatory. So by your standard, that would mean that China is a slave state. By law, military service with the PLA is obligatory for all Chinese citizens. India indeed does not have a draft. It did not have mandatory service. So is India the
Yeah, but
only
is that
non-slave
law
state?
actually enforced?
Yeah, of course.
Is it enforced?
Does China not have a military?
I don't think China enforces it. So,
I
like,
think.
when a
I
Chinese
mean,
person actually
refuses to go to the military,
hits the
they
age
can
of,
just not go and face no repercussions whatsoever.
so I don't, so, okay, so when a Chinese person hits the age of like 18, whatever,
Mhm.
do they have to go to the military? I don't think so.
Yeah, there is mandatory military service in China. We can go further into it if you wish. But per cursory
Okay.
search shows me that there is conscription in China. There's a whole Wikipedia article called Conscription in China. It began as an all-volunteer force in
Yeah,
1955, but
I
to
think it stopped because,
modernize the PLA, the first military service law created a system of compulsory military service since the late 1970s. The Chinese conscription laws mandate a hybrid system that combines conscripts and volunteers. Due to sufficient volunteer recruitment, mandatory military service has not been enacted, but it is still in the law. So if there was a war, then Chinese
yes,
people would
so
be drafted.
yeah, not necessarily.
Necessarily.
So it's not enacted, but it is, you're right, it is in the law.
Yeah.
It is in the law.
And
So
so
in a
it's only
sense,
not enacted because there's
yeah,
no
so in a
war.
sense, I mean,
Ukraine also did not draft before the invasion.
uh, okay, but they did at the end, and
Yeah,
we
because
can't
there's
say
a
that
war,
much.
because there's
Yeah,
an
sure, I
invasion.
don't care about China.
Is Russia a slave state?
Okay, sure. I mean, the US has a draft registration.
Yeah.
Are they drafting? Then, yeah. But the difference is
Hmm.
the entire Ukraine is claiming to be the good guy here, and
Yeah,
the
it is.
it's
It's
getting aid
invaded.
from the US,
Hmm.
which it should not be getting.
Why?
Yeah, so it's getting aid by the US, and and it shouldn't be getting it.
Why not?
No one's aiding Russia.
Apart from Iran,
Well, because it's a slave
North
state.
Korea, and China, they are aiding Russia. They are actually aiding Russia more actively than the West
Well,
does. There are North Korean troops in Ukraine, or rather in Kursk region in Russia. There are no European troops in Ukraine supporting Ukrainian troops. There are no US troops on the ground. But Russian allies do support Russia with troops. So there are countries that support Russia. But you said that nobody
I
is
mean,
supporting Russia.
Western nations.
Yeah,
Well, I
because
didn't mean it literally, of
yeah.
course.
How did you mean it?
Yeah, I didn't mean it literally. I mean, like the
Yes, how did
most
you
of the
mean it?
world that actually matters. So Western countries are not.
Are you saying that China does not matter on the international
Yeah, so I
stage?
was saying that Western China, I think they abstained on the UN vote, whatever.
They
I don't think
support
they're aiding
Russia
Russia.
economically. They are openly and less openly with the drone production, which has been proven.
Okay, even if they do, okay, even if they do,
Hmm.
in a sense, they don't really matter. I'm talking about Western countries, they culturally
Well, they matter.
and
There
economically and in a bunch of other ways,
a
they
huge,
matter.
a huge bulk of the Russian armaments come from the Allies. A lot of shells come from North Korea. A lot of drones come from Iran. We cannot say that it does not matter. It matters a lot. Not to mention the troops on the ground, the North Korean troops on the ground that supply manpower. That is a huge impact. And let's not forget, both the United
Okay, I
States
mean, this is not
and
really,
yeah, is there something you want to
yeah,
respond
I mean,
with?
this is not really the debate about the topic. We are drifting to something else.
Well, we are drifting to
So,
whether or not any of these countries should be. You said that Ukraine is being aided and it shouldn't, and that nobody's aiding Russia. But I demonstrated that Russia is very much being aided by its allies.
yes, but that's not what I meant.
What did you mean?
So, anyways, I mean that Western countries are not aiding Russia.
Yeah,
Western
that's
countries
good.
should also not aid Ukraine.
Why not?
Yeah, Ukraine should also not be getting US aid because it's a slave state. It's actually against US law to aid nations that abuse human rights, for example.
But
So
Ukraine
it's
does not
against
abuse
US law
human
to aid them.
rights. Not according to the US law or the Ukrainian law
Is
or the
slavery an
international law.
abuse of human rights?
But draft is not slavery. There is no definition of draft that
Well,
calls it slavery. I welcome you to find me a definition of draft that would define
so
it as
Ukraine
slavery.
is abusing human rights.
Are you talking legally or morally? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Legally speaking, that a draft is definitely not slavery.
Yeah, legally speaking.
That no, it's not draft. It's not slavery. No, mandatory military service is not treated as slavery by. I don't
So,
think you
but
can.
but do you?
Not by the U.S., not by the international law. There's no legal body that will define the draft as slavery and abuses of human rights. Like, what would be the
But
alternative?
you do agree that
Let's
slavery would be
let's explore this. What would
yes,
be the
okay. I'd
alternative?
like to respond.
Yeah, go on.
So
I'm listening.
okay, so you do agree that slavery is an abuse of human rights, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And so the draft is slavery. I mean, like
I mean, we cannot just
you're
say the
forcing.
draft is slavery. You have to establish that.
Yes, I am. So you're forcing somebody to do work, to do labor. You're forcing somebody to do it. It is slavery, is it not?
Not under the law. You could say that morally it comes close. And I would say that morally it's still justified, but under the law,
Yeah,
the
but
draft is
you're
not considered
forcing you're
slavery.
for, being slavery and being it's not considered slavery.
there is no legal
True,
definition.
but it is slavery.
Morally speaking, yeah, you could make that case. But I would then
Well,
make the
okay,
case
so
that
let me give
it's
you a legal
yeah,
definition.
of what? Of the draft?
Okay, so talking about legal definitions, look
Mm-hmm.
at the United Nations definition of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Can you pull it up on stream
Mm,
or no?
we can. When it loads. The United States definition of slavery, yes? Slavery Convention.
Yeah, the Slavery Convention of 1926.
So it's a big article.
Yeah,
It's
so
a big.
if
So
you
what are
look at
you?
Article 1,
Yeah. Slavery is the status of
yeah, so
condition of a person whom all or any all of
take
the
your
powers
attention.
attaching to the right of ownership are
Yeah,
exercised. The draft does not mean that the state owns the soldier.
okay, but they are exercising rights, exercising powers attaching to the right of ownership.
No. How so?
So, so slavery is the condition of a person over whom rights or powers attaching to the right of ownership are exercised. So, rights of ownership, such as you control where that person goes, like where that person
The
goes,
state
or
cannot
what that
sell or
person
buy.
do,
The state cannot
what that
sell or
person
buy a
does.
soldier, right? There's no ownership of the soldier. The state does not have
Yeah,
ownership of the soldier. It
but
cannot sell the soldier, it cannot buy the soldier, it cannot just kill the soldier.
yeah, you can say that.
I mean, I can, yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have to own somebody necessarily
You
for it to
do.
be considered slavery,
You do. That
according to
is
this
that
definition.
is the that
You
yeah.
see,
According to this definition, the slave trade is included all acts involved in the capture, acquisition, or disposal of a person with intent to reduce him to slavery. All acts involved in the acquisition of a slave with a view to selling or exchanging him. All acts of disposal by sale or exchange of a slave acquired with a view to being sold or exchanged, and in general every act of trade or transport in slaves. Ownership is the most important requirement for slavery. Without ownership, there is no slavery.
not according to this definition.
Well, I'm reading it. That's what I just read. Article 1, second point.
Yeah, and why are you
It
reading the second
specifies
point? The definition.
because we have to read all the points. Article 1.2. It's the same article.
You can you can read all the points, but that's not relevant. So first is the definition of slavery. Second is, I guess, they're defining slave trade.
Well, no. It's still
You can
Article
have
1.
slavery without a slave trade.
For the purpose of the present convention, the following definitions are agreed upon. It's part of the definition. It's not defining the slave trade. Ownership is a key component of slavery.
Yeah, I'm talking about the second point. The second point is describing the slave trade.
No, it's still a definition.
The first,
Article 1. For the purpose of the
no, it
present convention,
literally,
the following definitions, plural, are agreed upon. Point 1 and point 2. Point 2 is not a description of the slave trade, it's
yeah,
still a definition. And the military
okay.
draft is recognized not as slavery, it is a service.
Well, actually,
No
some countries
no
and
law
some,
considers uh, draft to be slavery. Not in the
well,
US, not in
actually,
Ukraine, nor international law.
actually, they do. See, here's the funny thing, they do.
Or can
I
you?
think there was a European, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
So I think there was this European something, c- they drafted something about human rights, and so they were prohibiting slavery and forced labor. But when they were doing it, I can look this up, like what the actual document was, but
And even within the
it
draft,
basically,
I've just remembered. Go on, continue. Because even
yeah,
within the
so it was
draft, there is
basically
such
a
a thing.
document.
Yeah, go on. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. Go on.
Yeah, so the document was basically about prohibiting slavery, forced labor, and it was about human rights or
Mm-hmm.
something. So
Yeah.
what they did was they prohibited forced labor and slavery, but they made an exception. They made an exception for the draft. So, basically admitting that the draft is slavery. And
No,
there are also a bunch of other countries like Singapore that do consider the draft slavery or forced labor, but they make an exception for it.
but that's irrelevant. The US does not consider it slavery. International law in which we are operating does not, as well as Ukrainian law does not. And within Ukraine, as well as I'm not sure the US, there is such a thing as conscientious objection, which means that you can um, either exchange your military service to public service during war, you're doing work that is beneficial for the state during the war, or you can exchange it for less dangerous military work. So it's a far cry from slavery.
Okay, I think you're not reading the definition well. It does not it specifically talks about powers attaching to the right of ownership.
Yeah,
It does not say ownership, so you're
it
not
does. It does
understanding this
specify.
definition.
It does specify in point
It's
two.
very complicated.
There is no ownership
No, it
involved
talks
in.
about,
Yeah.
okay, so the point two says, the point two is about slave trade. It literally says the slave trade includes all acts, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's talking about slave trade.
Yeah.
I'm talking about slavery. I'm not talking about slave trade. There is no slave trade, but there is slavery.
There is no slavery. There is
So,
service. There is military service. Military service is not the same as slavery.
okay, so yeah, it's a different name. I get it.
No, it's not just a different name.
So,
In slavery, you do not have a
no, no,
conscientious
okay.
objection. Do you know
Let
what
let me break this
conscientious
down.
objection is? Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, you're cutting out a lot.
I'm cutting out a lot.
Are you still there?
I am here. Yeah, I went
Yes.
quiet because I'm
Okay,
waiting
you're
for you.
you're here.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you. I'm not. A
Okay,
person that
so
shouts
I'm
over
gonna break
people.
this down.
If you want to.
Point number one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let me break this down. I think there's a big delay. That's why we are interrupting each other. So the rights of ownership. It does not say ownership. It says rights of ownership. So what are rights of ownership? Rights of ownership are such as you control where something goes. You control what that thing does. So basically, you control it, like what the government has control over a person in a draft. They decide where they go. They decide what they do. So they are exercising rights of ownership.
No, that's incorrect.
In other words, they are exercising powers attaching to the right of ownership. They do not own them, I guess you can say that, but they are exercising powers attaching to the right of ownership. That's what this definition is talking about. So, by this definition, it is slavery.
But you're using it incorrectly.
Do you
Because
understand?
the yes? Would you like me to respond or
Yeah.
okay. So according to your definition, it is not slavery because the state does not control exactly what the person does, where the person goes. It can send the person to a unit, but the person can uh, the easiest thing that a person can do is request to be moved elsewhere. A person can also exercise their right to contentious objection, conscientious objection, in which case they could not do military service at all, depending on the circumstances, and that's just exchange it for community work or exchange it for less dangerous types of work. For example, if a person is against killing on principle, they could request to be sent to a kitchen when they will cook or to any other duties that would not involve combat. That is already goes against what you've described as the state controlling every aspect of the individual.
Okay, so you mentioned two
People
things.
in the
You talk
draft
about
have
conscientious.
agency. Yeah, conscientious objection.
Okay,
People that
so
are
let
drafted
me
have a
respond.
lot more
You
agency
said two
than you
things. And
think.
you said okay, so if I can respond,
Yeah, go on.
you mentioned two things: conscientious subjection
Objection,
and
yes.
requesting to be sent to another unit.
Yeah.
So if they have to request, that
Mm-hmm.
request can be denied. And if you have to request, I mean, a slave can request. You can beg,
That's
really.
not begging.
So, and the second point about conscientious objection.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, request is a nicer word for it. But speaking about conscientious objection,
Yeah.
not everybody can be the cook. Okay, I mean, at some point, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, not everybody can be the cook. So there are actually videos. Yeah, there are. So yeah, some are gonna be denied. Some
Yeah.
are not gonna be able to conscientiously. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that. Um, yeah, but some are going to be denied that.
But that's
And
irrelevant. The very fact that that exists
oh yeah, what was
just
I?
excludes this from
So yeah, there are
slavery.
actually okay. So there are actually videos. I don't know if you have seen them, but there are videos of in Ukraine where they are basically, it appears to be kidnapping. Uh, some military guys are gonna kidnap a bunch of guys from the streets, and they are, the guys are running away, and it basically appears to be kidnapping.
Appears to. So is
So
it how can you call it
you cannot
kidnapping?
just conscientiously.
Well, it's not kidnapping.
I'm saying it appears to be kidnapping.
Well, but it's not just because it's something
Well,
appears to
I'm
be
saying it
something.
appears to be
Well,
the way it happens. They
that's irrelevant.
well, they pull up in.
It's irrelevant what it appears to
Well,
be.
first of
What
all, it's not
matters
the
is what it
police.
is. It's not slavery. Legally speaking, it is not slavery.
well, I'm trying to
Like
make you
you
understand
can
the
argue
definition, and
you can argue
I'm
that it
just saying a
should be
name.
recognized as slavery on a moral legal basis, but it's not. It is not slavery.
Yeah, you can keep repeating that. So this is the issue that I come
Yeah,
across debating this here. Like people in chat
because
and YouTube, you
you're
just keep
just
repeating it is not slave. I'm trying to.
I just keep repeating reality to you. Is jury duty slavery in your eyes?
Okay, and is that a point against me?
Yes. Is jury duty slavery?
I don't think that's.
Do you know what jury duty is?
I mean, I know what you're doing.
No, do you know what
I know what
jury
you're doing.
duty
You're
is?
saying, hey, jury, dude. Yes,
Yeah, it's yeah. Is it slavery?
yes, I know. No,
Why not?
well, it is compulsory that you have to show up.
Yeah, you have to under the law.
Why do I think it's not slavery?
Yeah,
Well, because it doesn't appear to be.
why
Yeah, it
not?
doesn't appear to be. You don't have to. You are not forced.
You are
Well,
under the
I'm
law.
telling you.
Yeah,
So you're not forced. So you're not forced under the threat of violence
you
to
are.
do harsh manual labor like you have to in chattel
So
slavery or in a military draft. You are forced under the threats of violence to do harsh labor.
that's not the
That's why I consider it
that's not the
slavery.
definition of slavery. Harsh labor does not is not included in the definition of slavery. Any
Okay,
type
now
of
you're talking about
force.
definition. I mean,
Yeah,
we have drifted so far. So the issue here is
by
the issue here is that you're
yeah.
not understanding the definition.
Well, I am. Are you? You
So
added
I walked you
harsh
through the
labor.
definition and you
You
just
added
ignored
harsh
it.
labor and the fear and the threat of violence, which, by the way, ignoring jury duty does come with the threat of violence by the state.
Okay,
So is jury duty
you
slavery?
don't have to do harsh labor though.
It doesn't matter. If a slave does light labor, do they stop being a slave?
So are you trying to? So I know what you are implying here that hey, this guy's logic, jury duty is slavery,
Yeah.
but it's not. We don't consider it. So this
Well,
guy's logic is bad.
we also don't consider draft to be slavery under the law.
Well, I mean, if I guess you can call jury duty forced labor, but I don't know what you mean. If jury duty is not slavery or forced labor, then neither is chattel slavery.
What is the difference between chattel slavery and the draft? Can you name any differences? Do you think it's exactly the same? Do you think those things are the same?
Yeah, the difference is uh, you don't die in chattel slavery,
Yes, you do.
usually.
Many people did.
Yeah, I'm sure many people did.
So that's not a
But I'd
difference.
rather take my chances there than, I think you're more predisposed to dying in a war than like being a rich guy slave. Anyways, that's not relevant. You can say that I'm ridiculous because jury duty is not slavery, but then neither is chattel slavery, neither is
Well,
the
it
draft.
is.
What I want to
The
talk
draft
about
is not
is
slavery. Yes, the draft is not
the
slavery.
definition.
Yeah,
Well, I want to talk about definition because you just don't understand it.
yeah,
It says powers attaching to the right of ownership. It says exercise of powers attaching to the right of ownership. That is slavery by this definition. Do you agree? Do you understand?
sorry. Do I agree
So
with what?
according to the UN definition,
Mm-hmm.
according to the UN's definition,
Yeah,
if you are exercising powers attaching to the rights of ownership,
yeah,
that is slavery. Do you understand?
of course.
Yes, so when somebody is being drafted, the authorities are what are they doing? Are they exercising powers attaching to the rights of ownership?
No, no.
So powers attaching to the rights of ownership, what are the rights of ownership?
The right of the ownership are, well, that you own somebody. They are your property.
No, 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 not no, no.
Yeah,
Well, actually, yeah, you're correct. I thought it said right. I thought it said rights. It says right.
yeah,
So it says the right of ownership.
yeah,
It says powers attaching to the right of ownership. So they
yeah.
are, for example, I think I can even give you a source on this one on what this means. It means that you
The right
control
of ownership.
where something goes
The right
or
of
what
ownership
something.
refers to the legal claim a person has over a thing, granting them the widest range of property rights in a private property system. Soldiers are not property of the state.
Yeah, sure, they don't have the right to ownership over them, but are they exercising the powers attaching to it?
No.
Are they doing
You
the
cannot
powers attaching to
exercise a
it?
power without having it. You cannot exercise the right of ownership before, without having it. How do you exercise something without having it?
Well, the definition is only concerned with whether or not you are exercising the powers attaching to it. So, what are the powers that come with a right to ownership? When you own something, what are the powers that come with it?
What are they?
Powers such as you decide what something does. Like if you own a pet, you
Mm-hmm.
decide what it does or where it goes, what it does. Let me give you a source on this
Okay.
because otherwise you're just hitting a brick wall. Do you agree that the powers that belong to ownership are what something does or where something goes, etc.?
Hmm. Sorry? Can you repeat?
Yeah, I'm saying that what I was talking about what powers come with when you own something.
Yeah, I'm asking you.
So like you decide where something goes. Yeah, like if you own a if you own a pet, for example,
Mm-hmm.
You decide where it goes, you decide what it does. So when you own something, these are the powers that attach to it. You decide what something does and where it goes, right?
That is part of it, yes.
Yes, so these are the powers attaching to the rights of ownership, right?
But there's also the part where
No,
the
no, no, no,
sub,
no. This is a syllogism.
but there's more
This
to it.
this is a syllogism. Just
You are a Disney watcher. There is more to it because there is no agency to the slave. The slave cannot disobey. That is a key part of slavery. And a soldier can disobey a direct command, by the way. That is within the purview of soldiers. Unless you live in a dictatorship. That's a different matter altogether.
okay. I'm just looking at a source. Hold on.
Mandatory military service and the draft are not considered slavery by law. Because there's far more agency to the soldiers than to slaves.
So I'm just curious. What if somebody says that?
I'm not sure you
What
know
if
what
during chattel?
chattel slavery is, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, well, I'm asking you a hypothetical. So if you can,
Yeah.
during chattel slavery, what if somebody just said, yeah, we don't own these people, but functionally and effectively, we are going about our days as usual, but we don't own these people. But we are going to do the same thing that we were doing before. We just don't consider them as property. Does
Oh,
does that change anything?
would
Is
they
there
be
is it
able
not
to go
slavery
free?
then? No.
Well, then you've answered your own question. But I'm not sure what that has to do with the draft.
Yeah, so you can't leave the draft either.
No, it's mandatory service.
I mean, sure, you can make some exceptions.
Yeah, and you have agency within that.
Yes,
What
so
do
you
you do?
can't leave it either.
Yeah, it's mandatory service. But mandatory service is not the same as slavery. There are huge differences.
You just said that you cannot leave during chattel slavery. Therefore, it is still slavery, even though
Yes,
they don't,
because
even if
they
they don't
do all
consider
the
them.
things that they do during chattel slavery. You did add that little description. Yeah.
Yeah,
If
but
they
you
do
said that
all the
you said
things that
that
are
even if
present
they
in
don't
chattel
consider them
slavery
property.
and they cannot leave, then it's still chattel slavery. Yes. Nothing changed. But the draft does not meet the conditions of chattel slavery because soldiers are not property of the state. The state cannot just do whatever it wants with soldiers, at least in democratic countries, that is. And being a chattel slave has no time limit as well.
Okay, so can I put this in chat, in YouTube chat? I have a link.
I'm sorry?
So I have a source.
Yeah.
Can I put this in YouTube chat?
Put it in my side chat, lucyhaza.org/live. Can you tell me what the source is?
Yale University.
Okay.
And so I don't have access to the Discord chat.
Not the Discord chat. You have to go to a page, lucyhaza.org/live.
What about YouTube? So everybody can like click on it.
YouTube does not allow links
Oh, well, let me check.
except from moderators.
Can you see it? No, I'm just gonna put it on global chat, I guess. This is if that's okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so if you go to page, yeah, it's a
Mm-hmm.
PDF. If you can go to page 16, go to page 16. 16,
60. 16. Yeah.
yes. So guideline 2, the exercise of powers attaching to the right of ownership. So they are defining what powers attaching to the right of ownership mean.
Can you read it
So
out
in
loud?
cases of slavery, yeah, if you can read it or I can read it.
Yeah, read it. I'm actually going to, because this is interesting enough that I can. Hop. Hold on. Yeah, read it out loud and I'll read it out loud. Page 16. Mm,
Okay. So in cases of slavery, the exercise of the powers attaching to the right of ownership should be understood as constituting control over a person in such a way as to significantly deprive that person of his or her individual liberty with
mhm,
the intent of exploitation through the use of management, profit transfer, or disposal of that person.
mhm,
Usually, this exercise will be supported by and obtained through means such as violent force, deception, or coercion.
mhm.
So, you now understand, hopefully, what powers attaching to the right of ownership mean.
Yes, I do. And it does not apply to the draft.
Are you, so in a draft, are you depriving that person of individual liberty?
With the intent of exploitation through the use of management, profit, transfer, or disposal? No.
We can talk about intent later. So, are you depriving that person of liberty?
No, not completely, no. You cannot.
Well, it's a simple yes.
No, it's not.
Um,
You cannot
and you
deprive
are
us soldiers
using
of liberty, no.
violent force.
You cannot deprive a soldier of their liberty, no. A soldier is not completely deprived of their liberty.
I can't hear you, by the way.
I said that a soldier is not completely deprived of their liberty, no.
I mean, I can't work with this if you're gonna argue like this.
Well, I'm just arguing what
If
you
you're just
said.
gonna lie to my face.
Oh, I'm not lying. The
Well,
intent
if you're
is
gonna
not
lie to my face,
exploitation. The intent of the draft is not exploitation, uh, use, management, profit, transfer, or disposal. No.
well, but you don't even agree that it is the deprivation of liberty.
Because it's
You
not.
don't even agree with that. Okay, so when you're forcing somebody to be in the military, you are depriving that person of liberty,
Oh, we're going back to
right?
the jury duty example, aren't we?
We are talking about this definition.
Yeah,
Are you, it's a yes or no question. It's a simple yes or no question.
I just said yes.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm not sure about the intent. We can't really.
No, we can. It is in the definition that you just read. It deals explicitly with intent in such a way
So
as
I
to
think I
significantly
am
deprive that
understanding.
person of his or her individual liberty with the intent of exploitation. So you just read a definition that speaks of intent, and then you said we cannot speak of intent. With the intent of
No, I don't think it's
exploitation through the
intent.
use of management, profit, transfer, or disposal of that person. We are talking about intent.
So,
It's in the
you know,
definition.
this is not a definition.
I,
This
yeah,
is
I,
this is
I
not a
just
definition, first of all.
I just read what you provided.
Yes, I provided what I provided is not a definition. It's a whole document that basically
It's a
is trying to
guideline,
figure
yeah,
out what
and
powers
it's and
attaching to the
it's
right definition
and it
mean.
speaks of
Yeah,
intent.
it's not a definition.
Well, it's a guideline, and it speaks of intent. And now you tell me that we cannot speak of intent, even though the guideline clearly speaks of intent. What you just gave me to read, what you just read out loud, speaks of intent.
So, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. That it's a guideline, not a definition. So it's not a guideline either.
It
It's not
is. It
a
says
well,
guideline
it is a
number two.
guideline, but it's not.
Guideline two, the exercise of powers
Yes,
attaching
yes, it
to.
is.
So, yes, it is a guideline. Am I being
Yes, yes.
gaslit in
I'm
real
sorry.
time?
It is a guideline.
Okay.
No, it is a guideline, but
All
it
right.
is not a definition in the sense that all of these parameters have to be met for it to be considered the thing.
So which do
So
and which do not?
when it
Are we
speaks
just
of
gonna
with the
pick
intent,
and choose?
yeah, it's not a definition. We have to, I guess, pick and choose.
I mean, when a
We are
parent
not
takes care of
we are
a
not looking
child,
at this
is that
entire
slavery?
document. No, hold on. I mean, you can deprive somebody of individual liberty with the intent of exploitation, and it still not be it still wouldn't be slavery in a lot of cases.
Can you give me an example?
So, anyways, when they're
No,
talking
no, no,
about,
no, no. Can you give me an example? You
yeah,
just said
like
that
a
there.
parent,
Are you saying that a parent
like
takes
being a
care of
parent,
the children with intent of exploitation?
some of them
Oh,
can.
then they would make. Then they would be turning their child into a slave. Yes, their personal slave.
Okay.
Like you just said that there are
So
many
when
examples of
when
people
this
depriving
document
people.
mentions,
You just told me that there are many examples of people depriving others of their individual liberty with the intent of exploitation, which are not slavery. You just said that. So give me those examples.
yeah, like a parent, you said you think that's a personal slave. I don't think so.
Well, no, but the intent is not exploitation.
Like a parent, like a bad parent.
Yeah, the purpose, the intent of parenting is
And
not
by the way,
exploitation.
we are not even talking about, yeah, you can have the intent of exploitation and, deprive a child of liberty, because you're a parent.
Yeah.
I still don't think that's a slave. That's just a bad parent with a child. I don't think that's a
Well,
slave.
it's a bad parent that turns their child into a personal slave.
But
Yeah.
you're really going off a tangent here.
Why? Why am I going on a tangent?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I can concede that. That's not relevant.
Well,
Yeah,
if you can
sure.
concede that, then it's not a tangent, is it?
You think that could be a personal slave in that? Well, I can concede this whole point. I don't care. Yeah, sure,
Well,
you're right.
then if you can concede it, then it's
So
not
what?
really.
Anyways,
Then it's not really a tangent by definition, right?
okay, I disagree, but moving on. So when this guideline talks about intent, I don't think it's so here's a definition. Here are parameters that have to be met. What they mean to say is that usually it happens with the intent of exploitation.
Sorry,
I don't think it's a strict definition.
you don't think slavery needs to be exploited? Then?
I'm sorry. I don't want to be rude,
Yeah.
but you're being you're failing to understand. You're failing to understand basic English.
Am I?
Yeah, I mean it's rich coming from me. I know. Yeah,
Well, then I
I
guess
don't
you
want to be
should.
rude. I'm sorry,
I
but
well, if I'm failing to understand basic English, then maybe it's your job to explain it to me better. That would indicate a failing on your part.
okay. I'm trying, and I think I have. And if you don't get it, you just don't get it. There's nothing I can do.
Well, you
I
cannot
think you
just say
don't
I'm
want to get
right,
it.
and if you don't get it, you don't get it. The reality is, under international law, U.S. law as well as Ukrainian law, the draft is not slavery. You cannot just uh, fit it into your
Yeah,
personal
don't even get me
definition and.
started. Don't even get me started on U.S. law, because
Mhm.
do you know the 13th Amendment? It says that slavery or forced labor are to be
Yeah,
prohibited.
yeah,
We have talked about this on Discord.
we have, yeah,
So you agree that you think that the draft is not slavery? Do you
yeah.
agree that it is forced servitude?
It's not.
It's not forced servitude.
No, it's service, not servitude.
You have to Google servitude.
No, there is a selective service. The U.S. draft is, yeah, there is uh, drafting of the 13th Amendment. Neither slavery. There you go, 13th Amendment. Yeah, you're talking of the.
Nor involuntary servitude.
Yeah,
So is the draft no, no, hold on, please. Is the
yeah.
draft involuntary servitude?
No, it's not
Yes or no?
servitude. No,
So you agree it is involuntary servitude.
it's not involuntary servitude. No,
Is it involuntary?
it is involuntary, but it's not
Is it
servitude.
involuntary?
Yeah, it is involuntary, but it's not servitude.
What is
Sorry,
what is servitude?
you tell me.
Can you define servitude?
Can you? I am the one that fails at basic English. Remember?
Okay. So Merriam-Webster says servitude is okay. I'm telling you what servitude means. So
Okay.
according to Merriam-Webster,
Mm-hmm.
it's a condition in which one lacks liberty,
Yeah.
especially to determine one's course of action or way of life.
Yeah. and the draft
So
does
when
not
you're
fall
draft,
under that.
so when you're drafted, so hold on, when you're drafted, you lack liberty. You have agreed to this like 5 minutes ago,
Hmm.
and yeah, so you lack liberty. It is
That's right.
servitude because you lack liberty.
That's right.
So it is servitude. So it is servitude
No. Have you heard
because
of
you
the
lack liberty.
selective draft law cases in the US?
Yeah, I don't. You're talking about case law, yes.
Yes. The Supreme
Yeah,
Court held that conscription did not violate the 13th Amendment's prohibition of involuntary servitude or the First Amendment's protection of freedom of conscience. I guess that settles our dispute, doesn't it?
okay.
Would you not agree?
Mm,
Under the US
no,
law,
because
yeah,
the courts just they just courts interpret the law.
yeah.
All they're doing is
And the
interpretation.
Supreme Court has held that the conscription does not violate the 13th Amendment.
Yeah, and when they do this interpretation, and they
When the
go back
Supreme
and forth
Court,
as well, like they
when
did
the
on Roe v. Wade.
yeah,
No,
but
you know that.
as of right now, that is the status quo. That is what we have.
Yes,
So
I know
until
that.
the
And
situation changes, according to US law, the draft is not slavery. It does not violate the 13th
I
Amendment.
obviously, obviously, I mean that the courts are wrong
So
in their
what are we?
interpretation.
Well, no, you have to prove it. Can you prove it?
Yeah, I was proving it, but you
Well,
just
no, you have not proved it.
went back to
Proving it would be going to
yeah.
court and winning a case, not telling me that you think that they're incorrect.
So
You
I
can
believe
do
that
that
the
about
correct
anything.
interpretation.
I can just say that murder is legal now because the courts are just wrong. They interpret the law wrong. They think it's completely different.
You can make an argument. You,
Yeah, it
you
would be
can make an
incorrect.
argument for it.
Yeah, but it would not change the reality of the
Yeah,
situation. And the reality of the situation is that according to the US law, as it stands, the draft is legal. Because your point is that the US, under the law, does not aid countries that violate human rights. But under the US law, Ukraine does not violate human rights. So it's okay to aid it. That's all that matters. You can make an argument that that it's not fair. You can make an argument that the court is incorrect, that it's a bad interpretation of the law. But the reality of the situation that it is legal under law, and the US is perfectly okay to aid Ukraine, which is the core of
okay.
the
So we
argument
are
that you were
talking
making.
past. Well, we're actually talking past each other because when I say that it is actually against U.S. law, I mean
Mm-hmm.
that it is against. Obviously, it's not interpreted as being against the law.
Well, that's the only
Obviously,
thing that matters.
but according to the law, it is
No,
illegal.
what matters is the
No, that's not
interpretation
the
of the
only
law.
thing that matters
I'm
because
sorry, are you a
if you have
lawyer?
it, yes, if you
Are you a lawyer?
neither are you, so
Yeah, that's why I trust
what
the
are you?
interpretation of the Supreme Court, because I'm not a lawyer, and neither are
Well,
you.
this is just an appeal
So
to
it's
authority.
like,
Well, this is
sorry,
just an appeal to authority.
this is just what?
Well, you're appealing to authority.
Yeah, there is such a thing as appealing to good authority, yes. Not all appeal to
You're
authority
appealing to
is
authority.
fallacious. Yeah, not all appeal to authority is fallacious, believe it or not. Yes.
Yes, it's a fallacy.
No.
Appealing to authority, saying
Fallacious
an
appeal
authority
to
is right just
authorities.
because it's the authority.
No,
That's a
I'm not
fallacy.
saying it's just
That's a fallacy
because.
every single
No,
time.
no. You don't know what appeal to authority fallacy is. If I appeal to the opinion of heart surgeon about heart matters, then it's not an appeal to authority fallacy. But if I go to any doctor and say then they know what they're doing because they're a doctor, so they know about heart issues, that would be an appeal to authority fallacy. But yes, it's not always
Every
fallacious to appeal to
every two
authority.
words. Well, you cut it out like between every two words, basically.
Would you like me to?
Is it also on string?
Would you like me to repeat everything that I just said?
No, I don't know. I mean, frankly, no, because I do not care about how this is an appeal to authority or not. What I do
It
care
is.
about
It's just
is
not fallacious.
I'm saying that
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that the courts are wrong in their interpretation.
Well, you're not a lawyer. You're
Okay,
not. You're not
fine,
equipped to make an
but the
interpretation.
courts are wrong.
You're not equipped to make an interpretation of the law. You're not a lawyer. You're not educated to do such an interpretation. Are you saying you're a bigger expert on law than the Supreme Court of Justice?
Well,
What
actually,
qualifies? What
a lot of
qualifies
lawyers
you?
and actually
What
a lot of
what does qualify you to interpret law?
I think a lot of lawyers and I think I've read the names of a lot of lawyers and even Supreme Court justices
Yeah.
who agree with me, who agree that the draft is a violation of the 13th Amendment.
Well, that's not what the Supreme Court ruled.
Yeah, yeah, there is like a panel of 12 judges, I
Yeah.
think, and they all vote on it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
some of, yeah, so some of the Supreme Court justices agree with me.
But most don't.
So, and they go back and forth, like,
Yeah.
during another, yeah,
And
most
the result
don't.
is that, because again, that is the core of your argument, that under the law, since the draft is slavery, the US cannot aid Ukraine, but that's clearly not the case. Because the law is what the court interprets it to be. That is the whole point of
Okay, so can you define
legal.
servitude, please? Okay, fine.
Well, I lack the ability
Fine.
to speak basic
This is
English,
not going
so.
anywhere. Okay, this is not going anywhere. So
Well,
can you
no, if you
define?
disagree with the legal reality of the US and the
Yeah.
international
Can,
community, then no, this is not going anywhere. Can you define servitude?
can you define servitude? I did, but I don't know if you understand it.
I
Servitude is when you
understand it,
deprive
yeah.
somebody of liberty.
Yeah. What is liberty? And
Okay,
how
and
are
you agree with
people
that.
in
So
the. Yeah?
okay, so when you are drafting somebody against their will, you are depriving them of liberty, correct?
You're to a degree, yeah.
Okay, so and it is involuntary,
It is
right?
involuntary, yeah.
Go on. Yeah, so it is involuntary servitude, right?
No,
Oh, oh, oh my God, why?
because it does not
You are so
deprive.
close.
Because that does not deprive the person of liberty completely. We're all
Okay,
deprived
so
of.
it's not a complete
We are all
deprivation
deprived.
of
Yeah,
liberty.
we are all deprived of liberty to some extent at all times involuntarily. We're all slaves all the time by your definition. When
No,
you walk on the red light, you're a slave. Yeah. When you cross the road when there is a red light, you're a slave because you cannot do that. You can get
No one's gonna
fined or
consider that.
punished.
Uh,
You can get fined or punished. Well, yeah, because that's the interpretation of the law. But you get fined or punished if you do something that the state does not like. That's a deprivation of liberty by definition. There are things that you can and cannot do within a state. That is deprivation of liberty. By being a citizen of a state, you deprive yourself of certain liberties. Yes, by agreeing to certain rules within society. To obey laws, for example. You cannot choose not to obey laws. It's involuntary. It's involuntary. And if you don't obey laws, you get punished. You can get punished severely. You can get punished for life, actually. Did you know that? Or in the US, you can get punished by death if you break certain laws. Is that slavery? Are we all slaves just by being citizens of the state? Can you answer me that?
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. 'Cause I don't know what to tell you. This is kind of ridiculous.
Why?
Okay, so you said that you are, if you're drafting somebody, you are depriving that person of liberty, but it's not a complete deprivation of liberty, right?
Hmm?
Um, so it's not a complete deprivation of liberty. What
No.
would a complete deprivation of liberty look like?
That you cannot do anything without your
Yeah, but
owner's
what
say
would it
so.
look like if you were to?
If I were to describe it, chattel slavery.
Okay, so Com- so complete deprivation of liberty is when you cannot do anything.
Yeah,
Uh,
without your owner's say so. Yeah.
isn't that what the draft is?
No,
You
no.
cannot.
The state does not
Yeah,
control
so
every
you cannot
aspect
do
of your
anything.
life.
Yeah. So when you're drafted, you have to. Okay, so it's not a complete deprivation of liberty. Is it a significant deprivation of liberty?
Sorry?
Is it a significant? If is the draft a significant deprivation of liberty?
Sorry?
Is the draft significant? I agree. I'll concede that it's not a complete deprivation of liberty, but is it a significant deprivation of liberty?
Mm, it's pretty
You're
significant,
talking
yeah.
to the person in chat.
It's pretty irrelevant.
Okay, so it is significant.
Yeah.
So it is significant.
But it's
I
not
don't know
significant enough to
why
fall under
wouldn't
the
call it
purview of
servitude then.
slavery. No.
But you can call it servitude,
No.
right?
You can call it service. Do you know what service is? Can you
Okay,
define service for
so
me?
we are not going anywhere.
No, can you define service for me? Or
Service.
yeah, do you know that word? I thought you grasp. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know intuitively what service means. So there's one more thing um we can talk about before like we finish this up because I don't think we are going anywhere.
I mean, you just try to deny legal reality of the US and in the international community. You're trying to build a case as to why the US legally cannot help Ukraine based on legal reality that just does not exist. So of course we're not going to go anywhere because I live in reality, and the reality
Okay, so
is
do you agree?
like you're making a case that it should be considered slavery, and maybe
Okay,
it should, but it's
so
not,
talking about
right? Also, is India a slave state? I've just been
okay,
told in chat that
I
India
was
is a
just
slave
reading
state.
chat.
Yeah,
Someone mentioned.
yeah. Is it? Can you elaborate? Is India a slave?
No,
Why not?
no.
Section
So he's talking
309 of the
about
Indian Penal Code has been mentioned.
he's talk,
The privation of liberty of one's bodily autonomy as a signature of a slave state. India is a slave state. 309 of Indian Penal Code.
according to this person,
Yeah.
India is a slave state. And according to me, India is not a slave state.
Well, doesn't it have a caste system?
I think it had 100 years ago.
No, it still has a caste system. Do you think India has abolished the caste system? Maybe we're talking about two different Indias because India still has the caste
Yes,
system. It's
that
still
was
alive as well and well, and it still affects people's status in society.
well. It has been abolished legally,
But it
but
still
some
functions, no?
people, some
Some
religious people,
people.
well, some religious people insist on it, but it's a crime and they get punished for it. But yeah, it's not the issue is only with the religious people. Even with the caste system, even with the caste system, it's not a slave state.
Why not? Why? How would you argue that even with the caste system, it would not be
When
a
this
slave
person
state?
was talking about,
Like within the caste system, you're basically born into a station in life. That's a pretty big deprivation of any sort of liberty, wouldn't it?
yeah, it's a deprivation of liberty, but it's not slavery. Slavery is not just deprivation of
Oh,
liberty.
so what is it apart from the
So,
deprivation of?
anyways,
You're gonna argue with me that the draft is slavery, but the caste
well,
system is
usually
not?
you're forced.
Sorry? What is usually my fault?
Well, I want to address what this. I want to address what your mod on chat is saying.
Okay, address
So,
it.
section 309
Yeah,
says that suicide.
yeah, yeah. Can you read it out loud for us?
Okay, so in India, if
Mm-hmm.
you
Can you
yeah,
repeat?
I am, but you keep
Go on.
interrupting me.
No, no, just because I cannot hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so section 309 says that if you attempt to commit suicide,
Mm-hmm.
the state can intervene basically if you're attempting to commit suicide. I
That's
don't think that means you are a slave.
it
I mean,
does.
most people don't even commit suicide.
It doesn't matter. It means you have no ownership over your own body.
Well, anyways, I don't want to talk about. No, I think in a lot of countries, if you are attempting to commit suicide, people will come in to save you. Like even in the US, if you're jumping off a building,
Yeah,
someone is going to come to stop you. That doesn't mean you are a slave. That's ridiculous.
it is when it's enforced by the
So
state.
what else I wanted to talk about? Do you think it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you think the draft in Ukraine is
Morally
severely
just.
sexist?
Um, mm, Draft is the draft. There is a
Is it
level
severely
of
sexist or not? Yeah.
there is a level of leniency towards women, yes, but women join the military as well in Ukraine.
What do you mean? There's a
Do you think that the draft is ageist
they
in
yeah,
Ukraine?
that's irrelevant. Yeah, they volunteer.
Sorry, what's
Hold
irrelevant?
on, hold on. Whether they join voluntarily or not, that's irrelevant. I mean, they're not forced to.
Yeah,
They
but
can just leave the country,
is
and
the is the
men are
Ukrainian
also not allowed.
is the
Yeah,
Ukrainian
no,
draft ageist?
I don't know. I don't care. And sexism and ageism are two very different things.
Yeah, but there's still a forms
And
of discrimination, right?
yes, and you can discriminate. That I mean, that's fine.
Like
But
young men are exempt from the
discrimination
draft.
on
Did
the
you know
basis
that?
of sex, okay, yes. And
Right.
they are also, so men are also not allowed to leave the country.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. They are also not allowed to leave the country. I mean, do you think that's sexist? That is severely sexist?
I think there is an element to sexism there, yes, but I can understand why it's being done.
And okay, so you do think it's sexist, and
Yeah,
you
but I
think that's
think
okay?
it's at least to a degree.
Sexism is okay?
I think that it's at least to a degree justified, yes, in this case, yes. Do you know why it's being done?
So sexism is justified?
Do you know why it's done?
Why do you think it's justified?
Because there's a demographic crisis in Ukraine right now.
No, no, you said that sexism is justified. Can I know
No,
why
I'm
you think
saying
it's justified?
I'm saying that exempting women from
I
mandatory
think,
services.
I
Yes,
yes,
in
I
this
think that's
case,
just.
yes.
Why do you think that's justified?
Well, I just said
Why?
there's a for the same reason that young people are exempt from the draft in Ukraine, for the same reason why the draft begins at 25. Do you know why the draft begins
Yeah,
at
but older
25?
women.
Older women are at what?
Yeah, but older women. Like if you're somebody 25, you're a man, and
Like I
um,
personally think that women
so
should
a
be
woman
drafted
who
as
is
well,
much
but
older.
I can understand the logic behind the state doing it. But yeah, I think that women should be drafted, yes. But what is the point that you're
Yeah, but
making?
why? Okay, why do you justify the sexism here?
I think that the logic that the
You
state
said that for the
employs.
same.
Sorry?
No, no, sorry. Go ahead. Just give me. Just tell me concisely why you think it's justified.
I'm not saying it's justified. I said that I can understand why it's being done. It's not the same thing.
Is it justified or is it not justified?
I personally think that women should be drafted as well, but the state has decided not to, and I
You're
can
not
understand
answering.
why.
You can't answer a simple question. It's a yes or
I
no
am. I'm
question.
just
Is it
answering with more
justified?
than one word. Maybe you're the one failing to understand basic English now.
Okay. And you can tell me why. I asked you why do you think it's justified, and you failed to answer it. You said I can understand why.
So
So
yeah,
why do you think it's justified?
what do you think I think is
Okay, and
justified?
tell me, yeah, why do you think it's justified?
Why do you wait? Why do you say that I think it's justified?
Because you just said that it's justified.
No, I didn't. I never said it's justified. I said that I can. I said, and I will repeat. I think personally that women should be drafted, but I can understand the logic behind the action.
Do you think that's okay, or is it a bad thing? Is it immoral? Are they doing a really bad thing, or is that okay? The sexism.
I think.
I know, I understand that
Okay.
you
What? Okay.
understand the reason
What
behind it.
is your point? Get to the point because I feel like you have a point. Do you have a point?
No, I'm asking you. No, I don't have a point. I just have a question. You just can't answer it for some reason.
I
Do
am
you think that's
answering it.
okay? The sexism?
What do you? Okay. What do you
No,
think it's
no, you're telling
sexism?
me that you understand. You told me that you understand why they are doing this, but
Yeah.
I'm asking you, do you think that's okay, or is that a very bad thing?
I think in this case it's okay.
And if you
Why do
think
you
that's
think it?
okay,
Why do
why
you
do you
think
think
it's?
it's okay?
Why do you think it's not okay?
I'm asking, it's not okay because it is sexist. Why do you think
Wait, why
it's
do you
okay?
think it's sexist? You just declare it sexist, but you have to sort of justify it.
It, it is sexist because they are discriminating on the basis of sex. Now, can I please just know why you think it's okay?
Mm,
You are really hesitating. You just don't want to answer this question. You are so hesitating.
I am hesitating because, on the one hand, yes, I do believe that it's bad to discriminate
Yeah, I
based
cannot
on.
now.
Oh, so I guess I cannot speak. Do you want an answer from me, or do you want a
Yeah,
snippet,
I
a
think I
soundbite?
think
Yeah.
no, I'm not a streamer, so I'm not gonna do anything with soundbite.
So can
But
I
I think
answer?
the reason you're hesitating is because you have. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, I do think that it's bad to discriminate based on sex. I basically think that the draft should be uh, across the board. Women should be drafted into the military as well as men to defend the country. But at the same time, I do understand the logic of the state that thinks um, that women are uh, the preserving women would help to combat the demographic crisis that the country is in. Yes. Does that answer satisfy you?
And Ukraine is not.
But it's not a Ukraine specific
No,
thing.
and Ukraine is not doing that. Ukraine is not drafting women. Men are not allowed to lead.
Yeah, but that's not a Ukraine specific
Okay, but
thing.
we are talking about Ukraine, so
Every
Ukraine is not doing that. Ukraine is doing something very.
yeah, but all countries do it. So I'm not sure why you're making a Ukraine specific
I
thing.
think Israel and Norway doesn't do
Doesn't do what?
because there's a war going on in there. And by the way,
Yeah.
okay, not every country has a sexist conscription,
Oh,
like
okay.
Israel or
Name me.
Norway, for
Is
example.
Israel? Yeah. Okay. Mm,
And I think Sweden or Norway or some other European country. I don't know. I don't care.
oh, you should carry.
But
It's pretty important.
Okay. So Ukraine is not doing what you.
Israel is the exception. It's not the rule. And you're acting as if Ukraine was part of some exception, a sexist exception to the non-sexist rule. Like you just named an exception which Israel is rather than Ukraine. You know that, right?
See, you don't wanna.
Well, yeah, it's bad, but it's also bad in Russia. It's also bad in. Well, I can name you dozen countries. And what's your point? What's the point of talking about it in the context of Ukraine?
But you don't wanna actually talk about. You don't actually wanna talk about the topic at hand. You just
Well, what
so
is the
you
topic?
you're refusing to talk about the
What is the
topic. You
topic at
just wanna
hand?
defend Ukraine.
Okay, I agree. It's bad that Ukraine does not draft women into the military. So where
I
do we
was
go from
talking
here?
about. Well, I was talking about how Ukraine is sexist and how they're sexist, and you just pivoted to,
Yeah, and
oh, every country does
so
this.
is
Like,
Russia.
you just
Well,
want to
like,
defend
yeah,
Ukraine.
what's your point? Ukraine is. What's the point of saying that Ukraine is sexist? What is the point? You just want to say Ukraine is okay? Ukraine is sexist. Where do we go from here? Are you saying that because Ukraine is sexist, it does not deserve military aid?
So first of all, it is sexist, and you just hesitated so much to admit it. I mean, you almost refused to admit it. I mean, so do you see where this? So do you see how you're dishonest?
I'm dishonest
Because
because I hesitated and did not give you
because you
an
hesitated so
automatic.
much. And you
I'm dishonest because I think before I speak.
No, you hesitated because you
Yeah,
realized
I hesitated
that
because I
you
thought
are.
about my answer, yes.
No, you hesitated because you realized that you are wrong, that Ukraine is sexist, that Ukraine is the
Well,
bad
that
guy,
if
but you don't want to say that.
the
You
bad
really want
Ukraine
to
is the
defend
bad guy.
Ukraine, even though it is.
I don't even know what to say to you at this point. Ukraine is a bad guy because are you talking of Ukraine as if it was an entity, a living entity? Ukraine is a bad guy. I'm not sure
I
what
mean,
your point is. What does it even mean? Ukraine is a bad guy. You're you're
is
speaking
simple English
nonsense.
again. Uh,
No, you're failing
okay.
English.
Well, I
Actually,
think we'll.
unironically, right now. Yes, there is sexism within Ukraine,
Well, I think we can
but
just.
if your takeaway is therefore Ukraine as some collective entity is a quote unquote bad guy, then I don't even know what your argument is.
Well, I think we can. This is not going anywhere. We can just agree to disagree.
About
And it
what?
was nice speaking
Ukraine
with
being
you.
a bad guy, quote unquote.
Yes.
Okay, agree to disagree.
All right.
Is Russia a bad guy? Are you here? Are you gone? Oh, they left. Well, that's it, I guess. That's it.